In the world of sports, your performance is everything. So what happens when our minds end up impacting our performance? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mindful Sports Podcast.
And yet, in a very real sense, they were satisfied being unsatisfied. Each was chasing something of unparalleled interest and importance, and it was the chase as much as the capture that was gratifying. Welcome everyone to another episode of Mindful Sports. Today we want to talk about grit. And man, I have never felt something so true as those words from Dr. Duckworth. Why are you never satisfied? Happiness is not in the next place. These and so many other phrases like them are being said to people every day around the world. Yet Dr. Duckworth's words ring true for many of them, and it becomes more about the chase for a goal than actually reaching the goal. Think about the most successful people around the world. How many of them stopped when they reached a goal? How many of them, after reaching their goal, created a new goal and kept moving forward? Passion plus endurance. That is how we define grit. Not only are you finding something that you are passionate about, but how long can you stay passionate about it? Is your goal big enough and important enough for you to continue pursuing it against all challenges, including time? I know that for myself, this is especially difficult. I can go between a hyper focus that has me locked in for days or months, and then having a passion and fire for something different seemingly in the blink of an eye. When I start something, I go all in, and even when a new passion springs up, I will at least reach a certain level of completion before shifting gears. However, it is then a toss-up as to whether I come back to that original passion or not. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. And there's numerous factors that go into these two components of grit, of passion and endurance, and many ways that a person's grit can be impacted. See, athletes run into this issue of being gritty during their careers as well. It can be a kid who's trying to be a top prospect, then they get benched. It could be for a game, it could be for a week or even a month. But during that time, they become so frustrated with what they see as missed opportunities from a lack of play that they abandon the sport. Sometimes it's a professional player who feels slighted by a trade or doesn't feel appreciated for their performance. Do they tough it out, keep playing at a high level, and continue to work at achieving their goal? Or do they decide that they've had enough? A perfect example of how we as a society tend to destroy the gritty nature of our young athletes came from me when I was taking a course for the U.S. soccer coaching license. My instructor talked about how we always ask on the professional and national level, where are the strikers and goal scorers? When we look at the lack of quality attack that our national teams produce, specifically our men's national team, and how we can never seem to find ways to score. We had just watched a perfect example unfold in front of us while we were in this coaching session. One of the kids we were coaching was taking defenders on one-on-one all of the time. Anytime he got the ball, He pushed up, he tried to take them on, and he tried to score. Most of the time, it was because he was alone. There was nobody up there supporting him. He didn't have teammates up there with him. But there were times where he had an option to pass and put his team in a better position to score, and he didn't take it. So the coach that was working on the field at the time made a comment during the break about needing to look for the pass and how our players needed to be looking to set up teammates. What happened then was that this player who'd been taking on everyone suddenly was taking on nobody. All he did was try to pass. Our instructor pointed out that this kid is exactly what happened to all our potential strikers. I want to take a short break, and when I come back, I want to go a little bit more into this as to why that was the case and what kind of things can we maybe do about it. Welcome back, everyone. When we left off, we were talking about the player who was taking on defenders, and when we made a comment about people needing to look for the passes and look for their teammates, suddenly never took defenders on anymore. You see, in that case, we emphasized teamwork, but we did not praise enough the individual talent. We as coaches in that moment hurt that player's drive to do what he loved and honestly was excellent at. Yes, this was probably a small and short-lived impact. He's going to take it, throw it to the side, and he'll go back to taking on defenders. But that gritty nature to take on all comers and overcome the challenges to score was gone for that time period, for the rest of that practice. This kid had the passion, but we quieted it. Passion and endurance. And we took away one of those. Athletes who are gritty follow those words that we said at the start. They seek the pursuit of reaching a goal. It is the process of getting the details down, fine-tuning your craft, and achieving each step on the staircase to obtaining their ultimate goal. Being gritty is something that we used to subscribe to as a nation, as a society. Lately, especially in the evolution of sports, I wonder how much we are losing at coaching or even officiating the need for grit out of our sports. See, when it comes to officiating, in some cases, we do this a lot simply for the safety of our athletes. In others, it's because we're focusing on the business aspect of sports and losing sight of the sports themselves. We're trying to find ways to make it more exciting or more safe. And in the process of doing that, we take away the struggle that is innate in sports. I talked about this in a personal paper that I wrote on why soccer specifically, because that is my sport, but it applies to sports in general, but why it is so connected to the human soul and why that contributes to soccer being the largest sport worldwide. You see, you have to win your individual battles. And yet at the same time, you have to rely on and be a part of your team. The constant flow of game with only taking breaks for significant injuries, overcoming the obstacles of outside forces, whether it's the weather or officials. They impact your ability to reach your goals of scoring and winning. The key aspect of human error is always present. These things help and in some ways force athletes to be gritty. How passionate are you about getting to this goal? How long can you keep up that passion? How many times can you have a call go against you and you still come back and you still fight to reach that goal instead of the officials are against us, we can't do anything about it, and you give up trying? There's extended periods when things fluctuate between good and bad in a non-stop flow. Life doesn't stop for us. Why should we expect the sports to stop for us? How can we expect athletes to be gritty when we take away their opportunities to prove this and to do this? There's a lot of talk about how these younger generations of athletes are soft. Maybe instead of soft, we should say that they lack grit. Certainly there's a danger in overreacting to the definition of grit. And often this can look like players who think that being gritty or tough means that they have to play through serious injuries, or they have to put themselves needlessly in harm's way in order to win. That is the utmost expression of passion, right? They're not wrong, are they? However, I believe that a person with true grit knows when to push and when to shift gears back down. You have to remember that endurance is one of the components of grit. You can't be a gritty person if you're throwing away your longevity. Maybe instead of coaching and regulating grit out of our athletes, we should spend more time teaching them how to be gritty. If we teach our athletes how to see the big picture and take the little steps to the larger goal, especially when they are young, then we can give them a gift and a foundation that generates success through more than just sports. Remember that being gritty is passion plus endurance. Loving something, passion is easy. Continuing to love something after doing it day in and day out and day in and day out for an extended period and going through all of the ups and downs. That endurance piece is hard. It can easily be draining even if you are doing something that you have absolute passion and love for. It does not mean that to be gritty you have to set a plan and never waver. It means that even if plans change, you still find a way to work towards your goal. So for all of us, former, current, and future athletes, if you have a big goal in mind, then give it everything that you can. Show your grit and reach your goal and make a new one and keep going. If you know an athlete, or really anyone, who's got a big goal, then give them all the support that you can in helping them to attain that goal. Keep them going long term. Keep their spirits and their passion up. And let's get a little bit more gritty. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you all next time.
Please make sure to give this episode a like, share this with your friends and family, and leave us a comment or review. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date, and have a great day.